watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be breaking down some potential Cincinnati Bengals trade targets here. Obviously, mandatory minicamp is in the books, kind of a free space here as we get ready and geared away for training camp. And I definitely think the Bengals could add to this roster. Will they do it? Unlikely, right? If we're being completely honest, right? Obviously, they've got their own stuff that they're trying to work through with Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart. Get him in a second. But we're going to be breaking down 5 potential names here that I think some teams in the NFL is going to trade for. Whether it's Cincinnati, obviously that remains to be determined. Just heads up, doing a little solo producing here on today's show. So if you see me look down, whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's show. Start with Shamar Stewart. Now we're going to be breaking down. The focus of our show is going to be 5 trade targets. But did want to bring up Shamar Stewart because there's been talk about the Bengals perhaps trading him. And I just want to say this is absolute nonsense. It's not going to happen. Wouldn't make any sense for Cincinnati. Wouldn't make any sense for Shamar Stewart either. As we've talked about here on the show, there's a clause in the collective bargaining agreement that basically says, hey, Shamar Stewart has the right to sit out the entirety of this year and obviously not get paid and then re-enter the NFL draft in 2026. That would be absolutely ridiculous. And Shamar Stewart's young, so is it a possibility? Sure. But this is something that's going to get worked out, right? We're not even in training camp yet. This contract between the two sides, Stewart and the Bengals, it will get worked out. We'll see when. Obviously, that is a big question here. But it's not going to happen. These trade rumors are absolutely ridiculous. Just kind of wanted to come out there and debunk them here to start today's show. Before we fully dive into it, if you want Shamar Stewart to sign his contract, help me out and hit that thumbs up icon. Like today's video for me right now. That should be every single Bengals fan that is watching this because it's just downright embarrassing and frustrating that this is an issue with a guy that hasn't even played a single down for this football team. Help me out. Like today's video for me right now. All right, let's get into it here with 5 trade targets. First up, let's start with Jalen Ramsey. That really is the hottest name that you could potentially talk about here on the board across the NFL. Ramsey, obviously, it seems like the Dolphins are going to trade him. It feels more like a when and not an if, right? It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it actually goes down. Ramsey, is he the same player he once was? No. At one point, he was the best cornerback in the National Football League. Is he at that level anymore? No. Obviously, getting up there in age, in his 30s. These kinds of things happen. But I do think he is still very, very good at football, and I definitely think he could help the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is the issue when you take a look at his contract. Really, that bottom column or that bottom line there that I want you guys to look at is the new team cash owed in a trade situation over $21 million for an aging cornerback. That's kind of the reason why we haven't seen him dealt here at this point. So as far as what the actual compensation will be, I think it'll be a day 3 pick. It's not going to be anything crazy to get Jalen Ramsey. It's just the fact that you're going to have to pay a cornerback that is over 30 years of age, over $21 million. That's obviously not something a ton of teams want to do. Do want to make note, at some point, these cornerbacks transition to safety, and it really works out. We know about that here in Cincinnati, obviously, with Leon Hall was able to do it. Can Jalen Ramsey perhaps do that in a couple of years? Maybe, but as I've talked about here on the show, really think Cincinnati needs to add another veteran body to that room. Really nobody better than Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, he's trying to win another championship at this point of his career. In my opinion, no better place to do that than here in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. So, is it going to happen? No, probably not. But I think the Bengals certainly could use him. But that $21 million in terms of cash owed by the new team, Bengals just, they're not in a position to do that considering what's going down with Trey Hendrickson right now. Pin comment time on today's video. Name a player you want to trade for. There are still some guys out there that are either held out from their respective mandatory minicamps, or are in a spot where, they definitely could be a trade guy, kind of maybe going into their final year of their rookie deal or whatever the case may be. So get those names for me down in the comment section of today's show. This one's interesting. A guy that we really haven't talked about at all here is Tyrann Mathieu of the New Orleans Saints. Now, he did agree to a restructured deal for New Orleans for the 2025 season. So would it be uncharacteristic for them to trade him right after restructuring a contract? Maybe, but I think it's kind of setting the table to perhaps move off Tyrann Mathieu. Look, the Saints are one of the worst teams in the National Football League, right? Who are they going to be starting at quarterback? It's a complete mess. Derek Carr obviously retired. Is it going to be Tyler Shuck? Like, is that going to be your guy? Seriously? It kind of seems like that's going to be the case here right now. But I think Tyrann Mathieu, obviously he's 33. years of age. So he's probably, obviously he's happy in New Orleans because, went to LSU, all that kind of stuff, right? But, it's a guy that won a championship with the Kansas City Chiefs. I would imagine being the feisty competitor that he is, that he would want to win another championship before his time here in the NFL is up. And obviously, you do have that LSU connection. Obviously, he was much earlier than Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, but I do think there is a relationship there between those players, and perhaps that could be intriguing for Cincinnati. But ultimately, it's the fact that, hey, he's a safety, a veteran safety, and you need better safety play. He could help stabilize that room, and I don't think you would have to give up a ton in order to get him. Just a matter of if you can get him off the hands of New Orleans, which, by the way, I think they are very, very open to trading Tyrann Mathieu, considering the current state of their organization. We'll continue with some more trade targets here in a second, but do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that these Bengals Crucial Catch hoodies are out. They're on sale, and they're actually on clearance. I believe over $20 off here at this point. They're really cool hoodies, but more importantly, giving back against a great cause. Obviously, this is the NFL's way of fighting back against cancer with their Crucial Catch initiative. On top of it, it's a really cool hoodie as well. So chatsports.com/Bengals hoodie/ is the link, and we'll put that down in the comment section and the description of today's show. Next up here is Romeo Doubs. Now, you're probably sitting here saying, why in the world would the Bengals trade for a receiver? That's one of the few things on this football team they don't need, and I absolutely understand that, but I'd kind of be surprised if he was back in Green Bay. They drafted a couple of receivers. That wide receiver room really, really is crowded in Green Bay, and it seems like, they like some of their other options a little bit more than they like Romeo Doubs, and I think we've kind of seen that as things have progressed here over the past couple of seasons. Here's his stats right here. Back last year, played in 13 games, had a bit of an injury issue, but he's a real physical, big guy. I've always been a fan of his game. Moderate drop issue there with 5 of those drops, but really the reason why you would make a move like this is if you'd said, you know what, Jermaine Burton is in a situation where we don't trust him at all, and we also don't trust Charlie Jones. I think that's the only reason you would pull the trigger on something like this, and by all accounts, the Bengals are ready to give Jermaine Burton another shot here. You've heard a lot of good things from Zach Taylor, from Joe Burrow, from T. Higgins, from Jamar Chase about him. So probably not going to head in the direction of trying to add another wide receiver, but I do think Romeo Doubs is going to land on his feet if it is not in Green Bay and really carve out a solid, not great, but just a solid NFL career for himself, as he's had a pretty good start to doing so. Here's the question. Confidence level in the bottom half of the Bengals wide receiver room. So what I'm asking is the confidence level in the wide receiver room excluding T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, because that's what I'm really curious about here. You need another guy to be solid for you. I think Yoshi's that guy. I feel really good about him. But beyond that, Burton, Jones, right? Kendrick Pryor, if you're going to venture into the practice squad. Cole Burgess, perhaps, as well. Also, a guy to keep an eye on. What's your confidence level in those guys? Let me know. Sound off for me in the comments of today's show. Next up here is James Cook. Now, James Cook is a great football player. There is no denying that. And I've been really pleased with how he has operated over the course of, his NFL career thus far with the Buffalo Bills. He can run it, and he can catch it out of the backfield as well. Now, you're probably thinking, why in the world would you trade for James Cook when you have, obviously, Chase Brown and what you've kind of built in that room behind him with Taj Brooks and, of course, with Zach Moss and Samaje Perine? I totally get it, but he's kind of frustrated with his current situation here in Buffalo. And despite the fact he showed up to mandatory minicamp and participated, he basically flat out was like, yeah, I just didn't want that $100,000 fine. I wanted to show up and get my money, but that doesn't mean I'm not frustrated with where things currently sit with the organization. I definitely think, James Cook deserves a quality deal, right? And I think there is a chance that Buffalo could move off him. Obviously, Josh Allen probably does not want that to happen. Josh Allen's got a lot of love for James Cook, but when a guy like James Cook is unhappy and there's a chance that he could be moved, you got to talk about him because he's just a phenomenal football player. And I definitely think he would make this Bengals offense unstoppable. But again, you can only have so much, and they already have such great players in such important spots. So not going to happen, but certainly noteworthy to bring up. And, of course, if you watch the show, you know that I really like Greg Newsome, despite the fact that he plays in Cleveland. Obviously a former first-round pick. The Browns picked up his fourth-year option, so they would probably have to take on a lot of that salary if they were to trade him. So it seems very unlikely that they would do that. But Greg Newsome is a guy I was talking about a lot at the deadline last year, right? Again, it's Cleveland. Would they move him to Cincinnati? No, probably not, right? But I think Greg Newsome, that would be that splashy last, ditch effort to really make this football team as good as you possibly can. I think he really would be kind of the missing piece for you. If you were able to land a guy like Greg Newsome, I would give up a lot to get him. I think he's really, really great. But again, Cleveland probably not going to do that. But certainly interesting to see what his market will look like after this year, because it kind of feels like this will be his last year in Cleveland if he does not end up getting traded. Don't miss any Cincinnati Bengals news, rumors, you name it. We will have you covered. And, of course, if the Bengals do make a trade, we will have a video for you guys as well. So don't miss out. Hit that sub button for me right now.